So the League Two season is upon us. It begins on Saturday. Really interesting to see what happens in League Two this season based on our predictions, my 1 to 24 and those of other League Two experts. It does seem, doesn't it, like the most common top three among most people's predictions has been MK Dons, Chesterfield and Bristol Rovers. So it'll be fascinating to see whether those two teams can those three teams even can live up to their expectation. Obviously, for me, it's Gillingham and Colchester. No, Grimsby and Colchester, even getting my G teams mixed up. Grimsby and Colchester are in my top three, with Chesterfield. But then there's a bit more disagreement in terms of the bottom two. I think Accrington Stanley are going to go down, although I think Not the Top 20 podcast got them a little bit higher in 17th. Newport County, lots of people have relegated. I've got them 16th. So there's a bit more disagreement. I've got Shrewsbury Town in my bottom two with Accrington Stanley. And there's other sides like Harrogate that people think could be in trouble as well. So our teams at the top going to live up to expectation, and who are going to be the teams that are going to be struggling down the bottom? Plenty to debate then on this season preview podcast. If you like what we do here, you can do us a massive favour by getting subscribed to us on YouTube and on Spotify. That would really help us out. Delighted to be joined this evening by our fourth tier expert, Ed Walker. Ed, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate your time. In terms of League Two, are we expecting the standard of the League to get better from last season?
Are you saying as in we don't have teams falling over each other and they're trying to get promotion? Is that what you're asking for? We can hope. So. We can hope. I always enjoy League Two. I think it's actually the best league out of the three in the EFL. I know they'll always try and market the Championship as the most competitive league in the world, and perhaps on any given day that is the case. The idea that someone can beat someone, but if you're talking about a division that generally shows its best level of competitiveness and openness every single season, it has to be League Two, because you look at the two divisions above. We can group pretty much them into haves and have-nots. Realistically, the promotion race in the Championship League One is going to be a certain batch of teams. League Two is a division where any single one of these 24 sides, if they get the recruitment right, find a shape that clicks, can turn themselves from a relegation battle of 1 year into a promotion win the next. We've had numerous examples of it over the years, and we might well see something like that again this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's dive straight into it. You've gone with your top three prediction of MK Dons, Chesterfield, and Bristol Rovers. Do you?
Could you add them in the right order, please? I don't want people thinking I've gone MK title. Thank you.
You gone? Was it Chesterfield you had for the title?
It was Chesterfield. You not got it to hand?
I've got it. I've got it here.
Come on, Gab.
I know, amateurish preparation. This, yeah. So you got. I
was expecting the graphic flashing up on screen again.
I know. Yeah, I've become too big time to do that at Harrogate.
All right. Okay.
Now I think Chesterfield, MK Dons, and Bristol Rovers is your top three. I think Chesterfield are probably the team that's got the fewest question marks around them, I would say.
Chesterfield, we discussed this loads last year. They felt like our what if of the season, because you looked at them, recognised the quality they had across that squad, knew that they were battling against a very challenging injury list that always felt like it stayed the same size. It felt like if Paul Cook got someone back, someone else just picked up an injury that had to go out. He had to chop and change so regularly with his defensive unit, his midfield unit in particular. And yet, despite those challenges, they showed numerous high quality performances against some top sides in the league and scraped into the playoffs on the final day. So we were looking at them thinking, if you'd had everyone fit from the word go, what could you have actually done? And now we're kind of backing on the idea that maybe they do get everyone going for the whole season. If that's the case, that really is a top team. Not to mention Dylan Markandale back, and he's just going to be wonderful again.
That's going to be huge for them, yeah. No, I like the experience in this Chesterfield side. I think getting Markandale back is going to be huge. I love Armando Dobra.
I like adding Ryan Stirk too to the base of midfield.
Well, he's
Really
going
good
to
at
give them
Walsall.
legs, isn't he? I think that's the
Mm.
big thing. I mean, he can look after the ball really nicely as well. But I think with this Chesterfield squad, probably the one question mark was the age profile of the squad. And so I think having someone who brings that bit of athleticism to the midfield could be extremely valuable.
An alternative striker too with Lee Bonnis, who's really intriguing. Northern Ireland international, previously out in the Netherlands, out of Den Haag. So to come back into having been, I recall him being with, I think it was Larne in Northern Ireland, and there was strong EFL links, and people were rumoured who was going to go through him. When was he going to end up here? Has that little spell out in Holland, comes back. It's encouraging. I think that's lowers, I think, the gap between Will Grigg, the starting striker, and indeed the backup behind him. There's a bit of depth there now.
Yeah, absolutely. But I still wouldn't write off Will Grigg, I still think he might have one more big season in him. So we'll have to see. MK Dons, I opposed actually a little bit, relative to most people in having them fourth. I really like the quality of the squad in the additions of Mendes Lang and Aaron Collins, but I'm just not sure about how it's all going to come together and how the players are going to adjust to playing under Paul Warne.
Then my prediction to this is slow burner. League Two tends to have these year on year. A team that has some good expectations at the start, and for the first third of the season, maybe even up to half the season, they look way off it, and then it clicks and they shoot up the table. Right. And with the personnel this MK Dons team, you would fancy them for it. I kind of agree with you. It doesn't feel like Paul Warne's an MK Dons manager. Maybe we're still used to the MK Dons of before, which has had this very clear philosophy in its head of how he wants to play. Warne doesn't really suit into that, albeit he has enormous pedigree, much like some of the people he's been bringing in. They made headlines very early in the transfer window. They've done it a little bit recently too, getting Callum Patterson in. It feels surely there's too much here to be as bad as last year. I mean, last year was a terrible season. If that's again, no. I think we're expecting a big improvement in the league position, even if they don't ultimately get automatics, you'd say.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I think also, as much as I have question marks about how some of that MK Don squad is going to adapt to Paul Warne from a tactical and technical point of view, he is very good on fitness because he was a fitness coach at Rotherham before he started management, and he's a very good culture setter. Like, his methods are very unique in that area, and I think those have been two big question marks at MK Dons in the last couple of seasons. So I think we can agree that it's going to be a massive jump from MK Dons from last season's 19th place finish. Whether that results in a top 3 finish, I'm not sure. Let's go on to Bristol Rovers then, Ed, because I think we can agree that they've got a squad with plenty of League One pedigree, and it's just a question of whether Darrell Clarke can bring some of those intangibles to Bristol Rovers like he did last time.
I almost have Bristol Rovers as my slow burner candidate. And I wonder if, to a certain degree, they could be too. I'm getting flashbacks to, I'm trying to remember what year it was now. When did they come up under Barton? Was that 21 or 22?
Under Barton, they won promotion in 21-22, I think it was.
In 21-22. It was that kind of similar feeling where I do believe there is that team, pound for pound, is probably worthy of going through automatic contention, certainly being a top 7 side. But I'm not fully on board that it clicks straight away. And maybe, again, it takes a little bit of time to get properly going. What I particularly love about Bristol Rovers is that they had that terrible collapse last year, just going from a position of relative comfort, that atrocious final 10 games that led to that really disappointing relegation. And 2 days later, Darrell Clarke in through the door. How do you lift the mood of a deflated fan base better than that? Getting your hugely loved former figure back in, who did so well in that first spell previously. And some of the individuals they've added, I just love. Alfie Kilgore back's really fun. Macaulay Southern Hales, I really hope he's fit. I adore him. He's such a good flying wing back.
He's very driven as well, isn't he? He loves to drive forward with the ball.
Absolutely. Kamal Conte back in League Two doesn't feel right because he was sensational at Grimsby this level last time he was down here. I really want to see him to his best too. And if we get this front line properly going, Promise Orancherry, Real Sotirio, there is some real forward quality in that team. Not to mention Luke Southwood in goal as well, who's got some real calibre from Northern Ireland.
Yeah, I do think, though, the reason why I've got Bristol Rovers outside the top 3 rather than inside, although still in the playoffs, is last time Darrell Clarke had that group of leaders, that group of men that he could really lean on and trust, who kind of shared his mentality and sort of, they were culture carriers. I don't know that I necessarily see that this time round. And so that might be what feed into your argument, Ed, about them maybe starting a little bit slowly while Darrell Clarke works out the ones he can trust. But I
It's
think
more because I'm not quite sure what the shape is at the minute. I think it could be a sort of 3-5-2, 3-4-3 variation, but I think there's a bit of
Clarke's gone
flexibility
with
there.
3-5-2, hasn't he, in recent years?
Yeah.
So that's been his preferred formation, hasn't it? In the last 2 or 3 jobs he's had.
But I think there's a bit of flexibility. I wonder if I think he's been trying Brian Belongo as a left-sided centre back recently.
I mean, he's
maybe the
got
idea Belongo behind Sparks could be quite interesting from an attacking perspective.
I think Belongo's got the physical profile for that, because I'd imagine he's very useful at heading balls at the back stick away, because he's strong. I imagine he's good in the air.
That could be the case. I'm keen to see if Ryan Howley can break into that midfield too, having been picked up from Coventry.
Yeah,
because on pedigree you'd say it's Conte and McEachran as your leading two for that central unit.
Yeah, exciting addition, Ryan Howley. I've got it's interesting because you've got we've both got Chesterfield as the winners, and we've got the exact same top 5, but in slightly different order. Where you've got MK Dons and Bristol Rovers in your top 3, whereas I've got Colchester and Grimsby, who you've got 4th and 5th, and I've got MK and Bristol Rovers 4th and 5th. So slight symmetry there, but for me, Colchester, one of the form sides in League Two for the last 2/3 of last season, under a manager who's galvanised the place in Danny Cowley, I think they're going to be quite the threat this year.
Yeah, I'm going back to slow burner talk again because I feel like they were last year's to a certain degree. They didn't quite end up in the top 7, even though there was a thought on the final day they could do that. That's a really quality group. And actually, it's probably just had more added to it rather than necessarily the full 11 getting worked on a bit. I'm not quite sure on the fitness of Lyle Taylor at the minute to lead the line, but you can play Samson
Will Goodwin's the one, though, Ed.
Or Will Goodwin instead, exactly. So there's options there. Edwards, Payne, Anderson, we know we're going with that trio, adding Ben Perry into the midfield unit, getting Jack Tucker back. Just the whole group is as strong as it was last year with extra bits added, and I feel like that's ready for them to take the next step and get into that top 7.
Yeah, they've also got searing pace in those attacking areas. You mentioned Aurora Edwards there, like they've got Lisby as well, J.K. Gordon. So they've got definitely players who can threaten in transition, and I think that's always handy in a Cowley team. Grimsby Town, I think, are going to be in the top 3 because of that growth potential. I think with a David Artell team, you always expect players to grow and develop every season under him. They missed out on the playoffs on the final day last season, and now this is the season where they already know David Artell's methods from the off. So it's kind of about fine-tuning those extra little details, like defending set pieces, which is going to get better this season.
And also replacing a couple of personnel from last year. I'd like to think they've upgraded the goalkeeper with Christy Pym, who has some good caliber previously from League Two. There will be some questions raised about losing Denver Hume, which is a bit annoying. I would get that completely. Going across league, especially to Fleetwood Town. Jaden Sweeney, I think, should be adequate for it. I think there's versatility on either side with him. Extra additions to the midfield unit. Maybe we'll see where Jamie Walker finds a spot in this. I'm not quite sure that strike partner to Danny Rose is yet if they're going to go 3-5-2.
Yeah, they definitely need another
Could be some of their new lads. Could be one of the new lads, maybe.
Well, they got Jays Cabia, haven't they? Who's I had him pegged as a goal-scoring winger when he signed, but actually in pre-season he's been playing down the middle, and there's definitely a feeling that he's provided a threat in behind that maybe they wouldn't have had with Danny Rose. So I think you'd have to put Cabia in the mix.
And I want to give a mention to that midfield 3-2: McEachran, Curry, and Green. Lovely.
Well, but they've also got Gezetli, who they signed in January.
You've been working on that name, have you? It's fantastic, yeah.
Been doing it in front of the mirror. But also they've got options in attacking midfield roles, like you mentioned, Jamie Walker, Zach Gilson.
Zach Gilson's an interesting one, definitely.
Yeah, La Masia Academy graduate.
I wonder if is there a possibility of a 3-5-1-1 here, and we go and stick someone behind Rose rather alongside him.
Well, I think possibly 4-2-3-1. 4-2-3-1 maybe.
4-2-3-1.
Yeah.
So not Tarm in the back line.
No, because I mean,
not the back 3 with Tarm alongside Rogers and McJanet.
Well, I think it's been a back 4 for Grimsby in pre-season, if I'm not mistaken.
I think the most recent game had Tarm in there. I'll have to check back on that.
Okay.
I did have it in my head. It's gone out of it. It's gone out of it since we started this, so we'll see with that.
Yeah. Well, we'll see, but I think they'll have the option to do either. So Grimsby, I'm really excited about. There's been a lot of agreement so far, Ed, but one where we disagree on is Notts County. I think a lot of people have got Notts County finishing mid-table this season, including myself. So why have you stuck with them for the top 7?
I realise I'm meant to sit in now and tell you they made a terrible appointment. I realise I'm meant to sit in now through my own personal experiences and tell you that they've dragged out this process to get in a guy who is an awful manager on account of what we've seen previously. And look, Martin Patterson, it was not a good tenure of Burton. It just wasn't. The negative tactics, the persistent, repetitive, very dull press conferences, these repeated promises that you just wouldn't see matched, the constant talk of non-negotiables that just wouldn't be matched in the team. You know, Gab, that I've got a hatred of the phrase "he speaks well." It comes from him. It comes from being sucked in on the idea of hearing him over and over say all the right things, because he does. He talks a very good game. But at Burton, he wasn't matching with that. So that's where the doubt comes in, coming into Notts. Being part of this technical board that's been getting a few headlines around, I kind of think a bigger deal's being made out of it than needs to be.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's quite standard, really, to have managers, coaching staff, directors, board meeting up and discussing. It's just they've kind of made a bigger deal out of how it's being done. I don't think that's anything particularly new. It might bring up some questions about the level of autonomy Patterson's going to get as the head coach. The phrase "too many cooks" might get thrown around with this idea of too many contrasting opinions, but maybe they're all on the same hymn sheet. Maybe there's just a general agreement, and perhaps taking a level of autonomy off Patterson and actually giving some more tactical responsibility to his senior coaches around him could actually work in their favour. And also, I think the squad's pretty good. I actually like a lot of the individuals in there. Yes, there's some star performers from last year not there anymore. Alex Bass, Dave McGoldrick, George Abbott, sure, but still plenty
They've
of
got
individuals in there.
Yorkender on loan from Huddersfield, haven't they?
Exactly. Orpender, big size to him, looks like a very strong ball carrier on the cameos I've seen of him. I'm quite encouraged by that. Mike Platt, Jacob Odo still in the back line. We loved them for last year. I'm not quite sure where I'm up with Keller Roos at the minute. I haven't seen him for a little while.
Well, he was part of the promotion-winning Wimbledon squad in 15-16, wasn't he? And he's since played a bit.
There's the Derby spell that particularly comes to mind for me through his last few minutes, certainly in English football. So I'm not quite sure where we're at with him, but push yourself a little further forwards. As you mentioned, Ian Panda in midfield, Matty Palmer in midfield, Ollie Norburn, midfield options. Jody Jones, I really want him back to his best, because Jody Jones, fully fit, fully on it, is possibly the best player in the entire division.
Fair.
Certainly right up there, and that'd be hugely exciting to see him at that again. Not to mention the other wide options in the team. I quite like they've added Keenan Bennett to the left-hand side. And then there's Barry Cotter and Nick Cerula. I've always been keen on Nick Cerula for a wing back on either flank. So I like the wide options that's there in this team. And then if you take it forwards, Alessandro Jatta, I'd find Jatta absolutely fascinating, because he's someone who, on his profile and his abilities in play, he feels like absolutely perfect build for a centre forward. The way that he can play, you can be someone who you can sit on the last man and be fed with the ball in behind to finish, or float across it to the back post to win a header. He's got that build for it. And he's someone who I think is capable of ending the year as one of the league's top scorers in the kind of 15 to 20 bracket, whatever you want to say, to goals. And yet at the same time, I think he could also have that lot of goals and also have spells where he looks like he just can't hit a barn door. Like, the contrast between his peaks and troughs is probably more staggering than I think any other striker at this level. I really do admire how he seems to have both highs and lows within the same season to that level. And if Jatt's not hitting, let's not forget there's Matthew Dennis, who was relegated with Carlisle last year, but was one of their brightest sparks and was part of the reason why towards the very end of the season, we did start to wonder if Carlisle could actually pull off an escape, because Matthew Dennis does have some input in there. So I actually quite like the collection of individuals in there. And maybe if the technical board is not used as a stick to beat Notts County with, and actually everything's just fine, everyone's singing on the same hymn sheet behind the scenes, could be an actually perfectly fine season for them.
You spoke very well there, Ed.
I'd hit you if I could. You're too far away.
I think that's a great argument for Notts County. I'm a little bit worried about the loss of Alex Bass and whether Patterson's going to be
the keeper situation is a bit alarming. I'm not, as I say, I'm not quite sure where I sit with Roos at the minute.
Sure. I I see the momentum to be with Barnet at the moment. I know you've got them just outside the playoffs in ninth, but I really like what Dean Brennan's built there, and I love their style of play, and they're the team that I'm super excited to watch in League Two this season.
Yeah, Barnet were in the dark horse tag, but I think they're too common now to be put in it.
Yeah,
I feel like people are actually waking up to how good they are and how
Mm.
I'm with you. I have them just to live outside because I prefer some other teams, but I'm super excited for them this season. No doubt about it. When you get 100, if you're getting 102 points and scoring 97 goals, and the only thing you've really lost is a centre back to Salford, and realistically, you probably brought one in Adam Senior anyway, and you just got better in all units outfield. You're worth watching. And we had a little cameo of them last night with the League Cup. Ryan Glover looks so fun.
I
He
loved
looks fun
Ed.
out the side.
I loved watching him in the highlights of last season as well. He's such an exciting wing back because he sort of.
And that's not even mentioning Callum Stead, who got fantastic. I think it was non-penalty goal numbers. It wasn't even scoring spot kicks. Pair of controllers in the middle: Anthony Hartigan and Mark Shelton.
Brunt. Oh yeah, Shelton as well.
Zach Bronte won the attack midfield. Is great depth at 10, it feels like, for them. Liam Lover leading the lines. The principles of that play that you see under Dean Brennan, they will camp into the box. They'll keep you camped in your own third, try and work the ball across from either side. I'm really excited to see these.
I loved. I saw Callum Stead's goal at Oldham last season, where he seemed to be able to put on that burst of pace, but then he's able to run for the defender and then sort of curl one into the corner. So I hope that's more where that came from with Callum Stead. So yeah, Barnet with that style of play, attacking wing backs and really pinning teams in. Can't wait to see them against Fleetwood on the opening day. You've got Walsall, just like me, outside the playoffs. So a lot of similarity between our predictions. I really like Walsall in terms of the overall direction that they're going in, and I like that they've recruited some up-and-coming players. But I guess there is a sort of a tension in the disparity between maybe how the fan base sees last season and how the club internally do.
Has a club ever had to lick wounds like they have? Because that's a brutal end to last year, and it's going to hang for a while unless this season just delivers what they wanted instead. I don't envy Matt Sadler having to kind of repair everything there on the back of what we've seen there. But I'm with you on some of the additions. I quite like adding Vincent Harper to the left wing back position. I enjoyed that. Quite keen on this Harrison Burke that's come up from Chester.
Yeah, I know.
That goal output's quite interesting to me.
Well, Joe from Off the Line blog is very big on Harrison Burke from Chester, who's a non-league expert. So,
and also the lad Holman who's just come over from Australia seems keen to me as well. Especially if I think there's a chance we see James Ellis suspended for a period of time. Given some recent news, so him, Lakin, and maybe Brandon Comley is the new midfield three.
And if they can, I imagine they're hoping to get a Chang or a George Hull back as well to
potentially,
give them a bit more.
And also, does it kind of feel like it's Presley's time, Aaron Presley's time?
Yes, I think so, because
that's terrible.
I think he's going to play the target man role. I don't know how many goals Presley's going to score, but I think he's going to facilitate a lot of goals for Johnny Stuttle, who I think will be the poacher this season. But I think Presley's going to make his presence felt.
I'd like to see Stuttle make his mark, definitely, on the back of what's being reported about with the rumours or the report. From Bournemouth is intriguing to me.
Yeah,
there's certain individuals who kind of need to step up and fill the vacant gaps.
Sure,
but I think we can see on paper what looks a kind of similar equivalent of last year's team playing into there, and that should be an all right team with this case.
Yeah, absolutely. So we think Walsall are going to finish just outside the playoffs. Would you fill me in on why you've got Salford City in your top 7, Ed?
I just feel like there's a Salford are due getting this right for once again. Just actually getting a line. You've got to remember, final day of last season they started 7th. They were actually in the prime position to take the final player spot and messed it up away at already relegated Carlisle, which, to be honest, I think we kind of hinted at the possibility of, just given how teams play when they're already relegated in the last home game of the season. And if they'd won that, I think they would have taken 7th off Chesterfield and got in there. For now, I think they've still really got what I like about the team. Matty Young coming back to add into that.
I'm surprised they were able to get him back, because he didn't start. He wasn't always starting for Salford last season.
And he's now got more competition in his unit, because before it was just him and Jamie Jones, and now there's Mark Howard to kind of be a third choice goalkeeper in there too. Olowu to take that central centre-back spot. Might be Tom Edwards on the right side of the back three this time, with Luke Garbutt on the left-hand side. Where are you on George Grant, Gab?
Jorge Grant.
Because there's some serious previous pedigree with him in the Football League.
I need to be reminded, because he had a good half season, didn't he, at Notts County, and then he had a
great
good
at Lincoln too.
Great at Lincoln, yeah. And then the last 4 years, I'm sort of kind of gone off my radar a little bit.
Off the top of my head, I can't recall how many years it's been at Hearts, but I think he's been out of English football for a little while. But the idea of him coming back into this team, I do like the idea of maybe partnering Osama Ashley in the central midfield or push a little bit further up. For now, Kelly and Mai still there.
Technician, isn't he, Jorge?
Yeah. For now, Kelly and Mai still there, and Kelly and Mai is wonderful, fantastic dribbler. Stockton, okay output. In the line, I think. Decent return from him. Jay Bird.
I think Kelly and Mai might go, though, because Kelly and Mai have been linked with...
we have to go with what's currently here, don't we, Gab? That's the challenge of predictions. Maybe. I think Kelly and Mai deserves another move because he is a fantastic... I think he's one of League Two's big prospect players at the moment. Kadeem Harris to maybe take up the wide options. All under Carl Robinson, who has had his feet under the table, to use the phrase, for a while now.
Mm-hmm.
I like the principles of play he can operate. I've seen them at times last season. They have a very clear kind of asymmetric shape out of possession that switches between a kind of 4-2-3-1 on the ball and a bit more of a 3-5-2 out of it that really works the shape well. They were very, very close last year, and I think this could be the time to get over the line. My only slight worry is because it's Robinson and he's a bit of a hothead character. If this isn't clicking the way they want to at a point in the season, does he clash with the board? And maybe demand something. He sees it not going his way, and there's contrasts of opinions that could cause probably his job to go.
What I'd like to figure out is whether Carl Robinson has matured a little bit, because when he was at Oxford United, there was a sense or a feedback that he took on a lot of operational responsibility, and he did kind of bulldoze over his ideas. Was the perception? How fair that is, we don't know, but that's the perception. And so I would hope that Carl Robinson has maybe learned from certainly the latter stages of his time at Oxford and become better at collaborating and delegating, but that's not always guaranteed. So I think that's going to be quite a crucial factor, how able he is to defer and delegate to other people.
Yep, I just have this theory and belief that at some point Salford are going to get this right. And they've been in League Two far longer than they thought they were going to. It's a long time ago now when they were the hot thing in EFL media, coming up into the Football League in 2019 with this idea they were just going to continue their ascent. Not happened for them for a variety of reasons. I think they were very naive when they first came into League Two with their transfer business. They have started to get their act together a little bit more with their recruitment. Good quality manager, good quality players. I think they can run this close again.
Interesting. Gillingham is one I wanted to ask you about, Ed, because I think we've both got them outside the top 7. I've got them 8th. You've actually got them as low as 15th. I think they'll probably be.
It's quite different.
I know, yeah. There might be people sort of saying they're one of the wealthiest clubs in the division, and they've got a manager in Gareth Ainsworth who's an incredible motivator and able to maximise his resources, as he's proven previously. So I suppose the question would be, why have we not got them in the top 7? So I'd love to hear your...
Gills are in my I believe it when I see it category. I've been burned too much by these.
Yeah,
I can't do it again. I just can't do it. I know what the Gallinsons want. They want to get Gillingham to League One. They see this as a bit of untapped potential because they're the largest club in their region and they want to try and maximise that. But I just get the sense they don't know how they're going to do it. They're on their 5th manager in 3 years.
Yeah.
And if you look through the level of bosses, there's not a continuation of style with it. They seem to have gone back and forth. You think starting with Harris, going to, I'm trying to remember the order now, went to Clements, then went to Bonner, then to Coleman, now at Ainsworth. You see some clubs do this and it irritates you, that they go a certain way with a certain style, build towards that, it doesn't work, they let him go, and rather than getting someone who could just give those little tweaks to try and make that better, they go, let's try the other way. And they just keep going back and forth between all these ways. And certain players in there who have been there for a long time, probably gone through a contrast of styles over these years with nothing really feeling quite right. So I need to see it in person with Gillingham before I personally start believing it. Even though some of these individuals in there, are great. I really like the man in Seb Palmer-Holden. I've been a fan of him for a while since he was at Newport. Lovely striker option. Robbie McKenzie might be one of the most underrated players in the league for his versatility and what he can offer. Glenn Morris still going strong. I think he's turning 42 in December, still going strong. Great to see. I just need to see it firsthand before I fully start believing they're going to play that way.
Yeah, I think it's fair. I'm a little bit concerned, maybe not quite to the same extent as you are, that maybe some of the issues from last season haven't been addressed because of how well last season ended under Ainsworth, and maybe he's been fooled by some of the players that were trying to impress him when he first came in, and they were unbeaten in 12, 13 games. And
well, you've seen the stat going around mostly about Gillingham. They just don't score. What is it? 4 years since they last had more than a goal a game across the season?
In the last 4 seasons, yeah.
That's what we want to see from them.
Yeah, I think so. So we've got Gillingham outside the top 7, both of us, even in different sort of vicinities of the table. Let's switch our attention to the bottom end. I wanted to argue with you a little bit about Newport County. First of all, I'd like you to make your case for why you think they're going to finish in the bottom 2.
I was hoping you'd go first and I could counter your arguments, but no. Newport, the reason for me is I don't like the uncertainty around it. I feel like we're starting again with Newport. We're going again for something different. Go to David Hughes. Coaching pedigree, great. Managerial pedigree, not really there at the minute. We can't really comment. It feels a bit similar to Jardim, where you're going to hire someone who might end up working well into management, but you just can't be sure quite yet. I also think they've lost some really notable people over the summer, more than some might realise. Losing Townsend, Nick Zanevin, I'm okay with that. That's an all right goalkeeper swap. It's Shane McLaughlin for me. I have loved Shane McLaughlin the last couple of years at Newport. I think he's been excellent when he's been able to play as a wing back, a direct, very dynamic wing back, particularly on the right hand side. He's been great. Newport had some injury problems last year, which meant he had to deputise into midfield, so play out of his more natural position, I would say. But he made that work. I think that's a really good sign for Cambridge, by the way. I don't think they even realised he was a wing back. They thought he was a midfielder, but really handy addition to them. Maybe Habib Ogunade steps in there. Maybe Joe Thomas steps up the level, but I'm not quite sure on that yet. Aaron Wildig, fitness problems for sure, but still a really valuable, experienced part of that midfield, not in there anymore. Much younger unit with people like Antwi, Smith, Whitmore, and Keenan Patton when he comes back available.
Sure.
Bobby Camworth is a game changer, no doubt about that, but still a bit streaky with his performances. I mean, that's standard League Two winger. If you're consistent, you're not playing League Two. That's just the way that goes.
Of course.
I am quite keen on Jed Garner, who I think can work quite well through a lower end League Two side. I want to believe there can be some okay output there in competition with Courtney Baker Richardson and Michael Raindorf as the alternative. What's interesting about Newport is I don't want to let my recency bias get in the way, because we did get a little cameo of them yesterday. And if Raindorf is going to score goals like that, I'm watching Newport every week, because they're going to be incredibly fun. I wouldn't sit here and look at a cup game and use that as indication of how league performance is going to go, because cup teams are different sides. You don't play full strength teams in league cup matches. But maybe this all just works out right. It's just I'm not fully certain yet that this is all just going to click really nicely and David Hughes is the right way to go to this. So just because I have a little bit more certainty in how other teams are going to look, it's the reason I have Newport where they are.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that there's 3 things for me. Firstly, I think they're better prepared than they were last season with the early appointment of David Hughes, and also an experienced assistant in Wayne Haxwell. So I think they've got a nice balance in terms of the talent of David Hughes and the know-how of Haxwell. And then I like that they've signed Habib Ogunade on loan from Man United, who's a very quick right back. I'm expecting some good things from him. And I also really like the signing of Matt Smith, because this is someone who's on the books at Manchester City for a long time, I think even into his 20s. He spent some time at FC Twente as well. So those are signings of a certain calibre and talent that I think can add something to their squad. I'm not saying it's a great squad, but I do expect some kind of improvement, especially if David Hughes is as good a coach as I think he might be. So that's why I've got Newport rising a few
places. So
I
guess we kind of have differing levels of faith. That you seem quite hopeful. No, you seem quite confident it's going to be okay. I'm a bit more hopeful at the minute. Is that the best way to describe it? I'm hoping this works out all right, whereas you think it will.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So we've both got, it's interesting actually, because in terms of our bottom fives, we're actually quite similar. We've both got Accrington Stanley bottom. We've both got Harrogate Town just outside the relegation zone. And we've got Shrewsbury either side of it. I wanted to touch on Shrewsbury because I imagine you've got them down there for similar reasons to me, Ed, which is I don't know about the fit in terms of Michael Appleton and this group of players, as well as some of the wider question marks around Shrewsbury Town, around the ownership and the director of football.
Yeah, the off-field thing is the main one for me. They need to see the warning signs of recent trends in League Two, i.e., League One's bottom club has gone down again the last 2 seasons, and both Forest Green and Carlisle were in a financial position that it felt like they could rescue themselves if they got to January and found themselves struggling, and ultimately they didn't, despite their efforts in recruitment. Shrewsbury and their current guys, if they were down the bottom end in January, how do they get out of that? Do they get out of it really? That's the difficulty with me. I'm not fully convinced Appleton's lasting the year because I agree with you. It doesn't feel like this is what Appleton ultimately wants. He wants loads of youth talent to just properly progress and grow from there. I mean, I think individual-wise, there's a nice back three there, but it's not really what you don't. I don't think you really give Michael Appleton that kind of back three to work with. Give it to more seasoned,
like
higher stock coach,
he's
perhaps.
used to working with Lewis Monsma and getting him to play after that.
I mean, Eli Harrison is the exact kind of player you have Michael Appleton for.
Sure.
As your goalkeeper. Maybe to a certain degree, I'd even say George Lloyd is the kind of guy you have Michael Appleton for. As someone
but he's
still
not
that
got
young
high
mold who
ceiling.
could. Yes, perhaps.
But...
Or what about Taylor Perry, man, as a different example? As the kind of person you might have there instead.
I don't know if he's that great.
You don't like Taylor Perry that much? Okay.
If a National League club had signed Taylor Perry, I wouldn't be like, wow, that's an amazing coup for them.
I think that's a little mean, but okay, whatever suits.
Well, someone's got to be the Simon Cowell figurehead.
I suppose. Yeah, I think they need to hit the warning signs about recent trends and recognise that just because when you are that poor in League One, there's no safety net, and if you're that poor at the bottom of League One, you can find yourself down the bottom end too. We've had numerous examples. Generally, sides relegated from League One don't have the strongest return back up again.
Sure. Harrogate Town, we've got just about staying up. For me, the big thing is I'm not crazy about that squad at all, but it's James Belshaw and it's Anthony O'Connor for me.
Yep. Yeah, and I actually quite like the Sporting cast around this time. I feel like they kind of made a bit of an effort in the market, a bit more than I wanted. A bit more than I expected. Sorry, not wanted. That's the wrong word. A bit more than I expected. So Lewis Cass into there, Tom Bradbury into there, Bobby Faulkner into that back line. I still maintain that's a good midfield starting two. Bryn Morris and Ben Fox brings lots of energy. Bryn Morris is probably good for a couple of long ranges this season. It's just in his game. He showed that at Newport best. I like why there's Taylor offers. Mason Bennett is pure, not a workhorse. Not one to depend on for a lot of goals. Indeed, not one to depend on for a lot of starts. But absolutely tireless. Got a fantastic spring on him. I thought he was going to drop to League Two. I actually thought he was going to go higher up to League Two. So I wonder if that could be a little bit of a coup for Harrogate that they make use of. And maybe he could strike a partnership with Sean Mikulski, who is a bit more of a dynamic presence up there. Maybe they go front two. Maybe they stick with the front one. Weaver's got his options to go into there. I agree with you. It's Belshaw and O'Connor are the two standouts, and we kind of know what to expect with Harrogate now. The target for them is surviving. They recognise that the league's ultimate underdogs, and if this is proper Harrogate, they're going to have some games where they concede a lot of goals. They're going to have some games where they concede a lot of goals, and they're probably also going to smash and grab a couple of wins.
Yeah,
it's just what Harrogate seem to do now. They're in League Two.
Yeah, I think they're going to keep a fair few clean sheets because of having Belshaw there, and because I think they've got a system where they're very good at defending their penalty area when they need to, and I think that basic strength can keep you up. For me, Oldham Athletic, I feel just a little bit, very much unlike Barnet, who have also come up from the National League. I'm just not inspired at all by that Oldham squad. I suppose don't mind the Ryan Woods signing, but overall, I'm not really feeling it with Oldham, which is why, like you,
I get the sense, Gab, you want to call them Old Ham.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get the sense.
Yeah.
I feel quite mean doing this, having been quite low with Oldham, because I'm actually delighted they're back. It's just lovely to have them. Boundary Park's a fantastic place. They have a fantastic fan base. Really keen to have them in there again. it's hard to deny, though, that they have got here by just nailing the last 2 weeks of the season, because they were really good in the playoffs. That was just perfect. I went and watched a couple of the games there, particularly against York in that semi-final. They absolutely slapped them. They just were perfectly set up. Thondop absolutely relentless up top, stretching the play. Backline really solid. Manny Mont looking good alongside Charlie Raglan. Just worked really well that day. And it's hard to ignore how many of these are quite now seasoned figures. A lot of these are names that we look at and think, cool, we used to enjoy these quite a lot. But that was a number of years back now. Some of these are later 20s, early 30s, mid 30s now. And it's just an older group compared to some. I think realistically to them, the target should be survival. And that should be fine. Although I'd imagine there's some Oldham fans who want to be a little bit more ambitious than that.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a phased process. I think it's survival for now, and hopefully they can build on that in future. I think one of the biggest disagreements we have is Fleetwood Town, Ed. I've got them in my top 7 because, as you know, I'm a big Pete Wild fan. You've got them.
Not as much as David Artell, but close.
Yeah, it's Pete Wild and David Artell. It's those two. I've got Fleetwood 14th. You've got Fleetwood 14th. So I'm just wondering. That feels a bit low to me. So I'm just wondering why you've got them there.
Am I allowed to claim the 14th to start my playoff hunter bracket? Because it is. I think again the playoff contender bracket goes down to the bottom half. This is what League Two does when it's at its best. It has a lot of contenders who stay in the mix towards the back end of the campaign. Similar to Gillingham, I just need to see it before I believe it. There was too much inconsistencies last year. Despite what I like that they've added a couple of really experienced figures in Ched Evans and James Norwood to be the alternatives or the support to that main striker pair, Rona Coughlin, Ryan Graydon. I like Coughlin and Graydon. I think that works really nicely. Denver Hume should be really good at left wing back. It's a major coup, I think, to get him across from Grimsby and take him across the division. Toby Malarkey in the back line with James Bolton. No Brendan Weir doing there anymore, which has to play a little bit part. He's been such an integral figure to the defensive lines. The more I just need to see that they've actually improved on their inconsistencies from last year before I fully start buying into them.
Yeah, I think when Pete Wild spoke about white ball players and yellow ball players and needing a few more yellow ball players for the winter months, if you like, who can dig in, I was expecting 1 or 2 more experienced heads to come in than have, but they have signed James Norwood, which I think is a great addition, and Will Davis as well from Sutton. So they have got a nice rooster of strikers with Ryan Graydon and Ronan Coughlin in there. So hopefully that depth can help them rotate and all the rest of it. In terms of, I wanted to ask you about Cambridge United, because for me, I wouldn't say I'm blown away by their squad, but I do always feel like you're not going to lose many games if you've got Neil Harris as your manager at this level.
No, I think still for me with Cambridge, it's the striker position. Everything up to the front line, I'm quite on board with. As I said, I think Shane McCaughlin's really nice. I'm curious if they're going to play him as a fullback on either side because they've got some options there, or if they give him a go in midfield. Dominic Ball and Paddy Rodriguez are the two standouts to their caliber and their pedigree from much higher up the level. Just not quite sure where the goals are yet.
Yeah, I agree.
I've always been a fan of the battering ram that Louis Perry can be, but I don't know if I've ever
he's a
seen him as the kind of
facilitator,
guy,
isn't he?
Exactly. I don't think it feels like the kind of guy who's going to barnstorm his way to a ton of goals this year. So Ben Knight's an interesting one. I'm quite keen to see him try and grow a little bit. Now he's in proper crack at senior football. It kind of feels like the top scorer at the minute would be someone like Kai Kachunga, which I'm not. That doesn't scream to me be a lot of goals. Exactly. Yeah. I just need an emergent striker to come in there. It's annoying because I really wish it was Shane Lavery. I've really enjoyed Shane Lavery previously, but it's just
it's injuries
haven't come the way through him.
Yeah. I think for Cambridge, I think Neil Harris to some extent buys you top half at this level because for me, I think Cambridge are only going to lose.
The whole backroom setup's worth a mention, really. Not just Harris; it's Bonner in that director's role, and the team working around them. It feels like off field in the dugouts. There's a really nice setup there at Cambridge.
Yeah, I totally agree. I like Alex Tunbridge and Mark Bonner. So that's the thing. They've got reliable figures across the senior leadership positions, which is great. And I think they're only going to lose once every 4 or 5 games. So I think that buys them a top half finish because they've got Neil Harris, but it's just a question of those remaining attacking additions. Bromley then, Ed, managed a top half finish last season. We've got them either side of the halfway line in our 1 to 24s. Are we expecting more of the same from Bromley this year? Another similar outcome?
Well, we know what Andy Woodman wants.
Yeah.
The only person who wasn't happy with 11th was him. It's the stands he drives, and fair enough. It's part of the reason they've got themselves into the division in the first place. I think, are we safe in being able to say it feels like Cheek's going to hang around?
At the moment, yeah. I think I spoke to a Bromley fan. He said they don't know anything as such, but they've got a feeling that he is going to stay.
Which would be good. A bit of me thought someone in League One was going to go for him and take that gamble because on the back of one season of Football League evidence.
Do you know what though, Ed? I think if he is going to go, it's going to be more like an Alfie May situation where he's like a league specialist. I think sometimes players, in later on in their careers, it's hard to make that jump up. And if it doesn't go as well at the next level, then it's hard to reclaim your status in the league below. Whereas I think, Cheek's got a reputation for himself as a League Two goal scorer. I wouldn't have surprised me if another club in.
It wouldn't surprise me if he was a League Two goalkeeper, Gab. It wouldn't surprise me one bit. It just seems to have that quality, but no doubt he does that training or something for him. It's individuals. It's individuals for Bromley I'm most excited about. Cheek for obvious reasons. Ben Thompson, I think, was brilliant last year, and I don't think he got the full credit for it. He was a really, really smart addition to have in that midfield unit. Some of the driving runs he can make, all the shots from range, really good. Pinnock, as you said, absolute standout. Going to be really fun to see those deliveries. The idea of him and Cheek being probably like the highest scoring League Two passer to assist combination in the league is probably a thing. Ben Crowhouse coming back is quite good. I had a little glimpse of him during the National League promotion campaign. He's out of their own new system, I believe. Very versatile on basically the right-hand side of the team. So he's an option for the right wing back, right centre midfield, right attacking midfield, right wing. Lovely to have that versatility into their team because I kind of thought he was going to go out on loan from Brent at some point last year, but hasn't been the case. So to see him back in senior football again will be quite nice. And just the towering presence of someone like Omar Sawunmi in the back line.
Yeah.
It's a big team. It's a problematic team. They proved last year, well, I mean, the bookmakers generally don't have a good understanding of League Two, do they? Hence why they're relegation favourites, because they came up as League Two, as playoff winners from the National League, and people said, well, they must be the weakest team in the league then. And they proved everyone wrong straight away with that. I'm expecting, again, to be a nice, comfortable conversation, and maybe a bit similar to last year. It felt like they had a little couple of streaks every now and then in form. Might be a couple of times this year where they're looking up and thinking, we're not too far off those playoff places.
So that's going to be the ambition, certainly for Andy Woodman. Plenty to like about Bromley, and again, certainly like we spoke about Cambridge, some good people off the field there at Bromley who have done some great work. Crewe, I think you could make a really interesting case either way, but I had a look on the Railwaymen website, and I think they spoke to 10 or 15 fans about the season, and the range in terms of predicted finishes was 9th to 15th.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, and I guess you've gone on the lower end of that with 16th.
I don't know where to sit with Crewe. There's only one more team that's more unpredictable than them, and I suspect we're going to get onto them in a bit.
Crawley.
It's another CR team. Yeah, nailed it right there. Oh, in my head, you kind of know when the idea of a good Crewe team is coming because they're built around this core of academy products. And there are some academy players in there that I'm quite keen to see develop further. Matas Holacek, maybe Owen Lunt. I'd like to see Joel Taberner come back into the interest a bit because it kind of feels like he's dropped off the radar a little after making that really explosive
Needs a big season, doesn't he, Joel Taberner?
Yeah, Lewis Billington would be nice to have some growth in the kind of right wing back role too. Zach Williams, if they can keep hold of him. I think he's starting to see him suspended. I'll have to check on that. I think after getting one at the end of the season, but he'll come back into it. It just kind of feels like we're not at the as high quality level as before. It felt like previously when you look at Crewe, you know good season's coming because you can see that core of academy players who are really approaching that top level in the Crewe shirt. I don't think we're out there yet with it. And what kind of worries me is I still feel like their biggest goal threat is Mickey Dimitri.
No, they've signed Emre Tezgel on loan from Stoke.
Yeah, perhaps.
Come on. What?
I need to see it first with Tejel. I'm sorry.
No. Tez Gels, like when he was at youth level, they were some of the biggest clubs in Europe were after him. I mean, to go from having Shiloh Tracy, Shiloh Tracy and Omar Bogle as your sort of striker options last season, and
That is an upgrade, definitely going from him. And also, I'm kind of keen on Josh March, who I think had a better season at Harrogate than people realised. Oh, you keep pulling faces at everything I say. Disagreements are fine, disagreements, but you scoffing at me every time I say something.
Sorry,
really put me off. Disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful.
But I that's probably what I think. If you're going to make a case for Crewe, I think it's the fact Tezgel could catch fire. He's now, you know how those high potential loans, you want them to have had a year or two of senior experience first. Tezgel's got that, which means I think that he could be ripe for a big season.
Maybe I've still got in my head it was just the MK Tezgel, which I didn't really think much of. So maybe that's the case.
We'll see. So Accrington Stanley, we've had a comment here from Tony Robinson. I agree that Stanley will be in the bottom half, but not in the bottom two. Stanley will surprise again. He says the strength is the consistency of players, the back three, Ben Woods, Tyler Walton and Sean Wally. John Doolan's so-called inexperience is way overplayed. You know, I can see that argument actually from Tony.
I don't think John Doolan's inexperienced.
No, I don't, because I think because he's basically been on the he's been handling a lot of the coaching stuff when John and Jimmy were there. So I wouldn't necessarily use inexperience as a factor. No, but we've both got Accrington Stanley finishing bottom. So I suppose for Tony, what would be our reason?
I've seen Tony on a bit of a venture to try and just remind everyone that actually it's not going to be the case. So I'd imagine he's probably screenshotted this now and kept it saved in there, ready to go to the end of the year if it's the case. Accrington to me just kind of, I found relegation a bit tricky this year. It wasn't too clear in my mind about who I'd find in that bottom two. Accrington has to operate as one of the smaller sides in this division.
Yeah.
A low finish last year, and I just don't think too much been added. We need to see some more growth of the individuals currently in there. Accrington at their golden years were just regularly uncovering gems from particular non-league pyramid. That was their forte. Not really happened, I think, to the level desired in the last 2 years, and that's caused that decline from League One down towards the bottom end of League Two again. Maybe Isaac Sinclair's great. Maybe Freddie Sass is great. Maybe we get some more growth in Ben Ward or Devin Matthews, which will help quite nicely.
I like Devin Matthews.
The front line, I completely agree with the idea on Walton getting good in the front line because it felt like he came in from Southport and I thought he was going to play as a winger, but actually he's been used up top. And actually you're seeing some real good qualities in him in that front line.
But I think Northampton are supposedly after Tyler Walton, so that's one that could run to the wire. I've got Accrington Stanley going down just because I liked Devin Matthews, Ben Woods and Tyler Walton last season, but I did feel like there's question marks in other areas of the squad. I think they've got 10 to 14 players who are Football League standard, but then a massive drop-off from the rest. And so they've got to basically stay clear of injuries and get it right in the loan market again this year. But 24th for me, Accrington Stanley. Now, Ed, Barrow are ones that I'm curious to ask you about, because I think if I'm going on how excited I am about the manager, I would put them in the top 7. And if I'm going on the squad, I would probably put them in the bottom 6. So I suppose, how do you kind of square those things with Barrow?
The question to ask you, Gab, is do you think they've replaced their midfield?
Yes and no. I think obviously the dynamic between Dean Campbell, Robbie Gotts and Kean Spence was really important the last couple of seasons that they've had. But I think Scott Smith is definitely going to bring some tenacity. How much quality I think is to be seen. Jack Earing has got a lovely left foot, but he's got a big fitness question mark. And then you might have to remind me of the other midfielders that they've signed.
Regan Booty and Raheem Harper are basically the same player in my eyes. They're lower, deeper distributors. I probably prefer Booty on account of what I've seen. I've realised what I've said now. But Regan Booty has kind of had an upward trajectory coming out to Gateshead and coming up, whereas it feels like Harper's on a bit more of a downward trajectory.
Sure, I think with
and maybe
Raheem,
that's why I'm preferring Regan at the moment.
Yeah, I think in terms of career momentum, you'd go with Regan. I think with Raheem Harper, he's obviously high pedigree at youth level, and it's whether Andy Wing, who's a good manager, can sort of extract that out of him. So I think it's to be seen. I wouldn't write off.
I would also say great pair of wing backs. I really like what they get with I've just got the Jackson. Ben Jackson is the name. I almost said Simon Jackson. Don't know why I said that. Ben Jackson and Elliot Newby's your wing backs. And also I'm going to say Innes Cameron intrigues me. Very much intrigues me.
From what I've heard with Innes Cameron, he's got an amazing work ethic and he's a good target man, but he's probably not going to score that many goals. So it's whether Tyler Walker.
If you can take this with a pinch of salt if you so wish, Gab, but I've seen a little bit of media from Barrow's own account. They went round to all the players and asked who's going to score the first goal this season, and 90% of them said Innes Cameron.
Interesting.
Make of that what you will. I'm intrigued.
Yeah, I'm curious. Yeah, I'm intrigued now as well. So Barrow, you've got them 19th. I think I might have them a few places higher, but sort of just about in the bottom half. But really excited to see
we're going a funny order through these teams, aren't we? It feels like we're bouncing back and forth.
We're jumping
the levels at the minute.
Jumping.
Who's still left?
Crawley Town, Ed. I think Crawley.
I have 20. I have 23 other tables, Gab, that I didn't send you, and it's Crawley in each of the positions. I have no idea. Their off-field situation points towards it not being too great because there's that alarming figure of reported depth, the kind of switch up, I think, in the hierarchy that's recently happened. That Preston Johnson stepping aside through disagreements is my kind of understanding of why he's moved aside. So that old-field situation doesn't feel too great, but it's Scott Lindsay, and Scott Lindsay seems to have a Midas touch in the Broadfield dugout. So. I think I've gone with a quite neutral mid-table prediction, but truthfully, their season doesn't really point to being neutral at all this year.
Yeah, I've probably lent more on the pessimistic side because partly I don't trust WAGME, and I'm also not sure who about the new people that they've brought in that are sort of coming into the club. That it's like it hasn't been reported properly, but there are 3 people I think that have come into the club that. They've not sort of properly introduced themselves. So that seems a bit underhanded to me. I'm not quite sure about all that. So it's that sort of thing, along with the fact that aside from a group of players like your Max Andersons and your Charlie Barkers and your Dion Conroys, I do think the squad's a little bit thin on quality, and they've signed players like someone like Harry McCurdy, who I think is a massive troublemaker and has the capacity to be quite a disruptive influence. And then they've got a lot of players who I would have down as more as non-league standard as well. So that's why I've got a more on the pessimistic side with Crawley.
Yeah, Shamanga and Shawan Mears as strikers I'm intrigued on. I think Shawan Mears was actually better than people realised last year. And also, I quite like Shamanga's output at Swindon. So,
okay,
something there. It's mainly the Scott Lindsay factor for me. Like,
he
might just get McCurdy back to Swindon 21-22 levels again. I wouldn't put it past him. It's just what Lindsay seems to be able to do when he's in that dugout.
Yeah, well, he did work with McCurdy that same season, didn't he? So,
Crawley, the best thing to do with the League Two, if you're doing a League Two prediction, pick your other 23 and then put Crawley in the spare spot because who knows what they're going to do this year? Who knows?
Absolutely, yeah. If you're blind ranking it, you want to go with Crawley last, don't you?
Yes, yes, definitely.
So what are we going with? I wanted to ask you about Cheltenham Town. Last two to finish off on. Cheltenham Town takeover, Mike Garlick coming in. I think that's quite encouraging. But the transfer business hasn't exactly been super eye-catching, but they have retained 3 key players from last season.
Yeah, my favourite part of this Cheltenham team is the trio that could be behind the striker. If they want to push Arkell Jude Boyd up from right back and play Darragh Power back there, you can go Jude Boyd, Ethan Archer, and John Thomas behind George Miller, and I like that. I've always felt like George Miller has all the qualities you want in a lone centre forward at this level, and his output I think was more okay than people realised last year. But for me, it's that trio behind the striker. That's the most fun part of it for me.
And they've signed Lee Angle, who I think can provide a physical presence for the way that Michael Flynn likes to play. So I think he'll facilitate some of the quality in those other areas that you mentioned. Also, just while we're on Cheltenham, shout out for Harry Tustin. I think he could be one to watch. He's a youngster from the academy who's impressed in pre-season. Got bags of energy, that lad. So keep an eye on Harry Tustin. Finally, Tranmere Rovers, Ed. You've got them 18th.
Have we gone through them all?
Yeah, I think this is our last
We have
team.
gone through them all, haven't we? Tranmere,
yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Tranmere, I think we've got them in the same position. I'm just not quite sure I'm ready to go big on Andy Crosby.
It's a little bit of a Cambridge situation to me. I like everything up to the front line. I actually quite like a lot of the individuals that come in. I think Nathan Smith should be really nice and hard, that back three, working with Crosby again. Richie Smallwood's a fantastic addition. Has to be seen that way. Hopefully a really nice part of that midfield, maybe with Noah and Kenner in there. The main standout for goals at the minute would be Amari Patrick, who, a bit similar to Bobby Cameron, I guess, at Newport, is streaky, and that's part of the reason he's in League Two and not maybe higher. Charlie Whittaker, I think there's something there with Charlie Whittaker. There's a little cameo, little period, sample size at Notts County, where I looked at him and thought, he looks really good. Driving runs, some attacking midfield, low finishes into corners. I'm really keen to see if there can be some growth in him at Tranmere this season. If that's the case, maybe we actually find that the lack of a really prolific striker doesn't necessarily hold them back too much.
Yeah.
Because right up to now, you'd say there's quite a lot of ST options, striker options. You're not particularly blown away by them yet, are you?
No, Dennis is a finisher, but he doesn't really offer much else. And so, and then there's other options not really inspired by their other options in attack. So, I think Tranmere, I've got them in the bottom half with the right attacking additions. It could be higher, but that's what I've gone with.
The other thing with Tranmere is I think they're more caring at the minute about matters off the field than probably on it.
Yeah,
they can't. It feels like the deteriorated relationship between them and the Palios family.
Yeah,
and they just can't. It just kind of needs to be ended.
I agree.
A fresh injection into that club would be quite nice.
And I think that for a club like, without going too deep into the psychologicals, I think when you're kind of waiting for a takeover to come in at some point in the next few months, but you don't know who that's going to be, you're sort of a little bit on hold at the club. And I just wonder if that's going to creep into the psyche of the club. We shall see on that one. Ed, great to chat to you about League Two this afternoon. So thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoy your season, mate.
I will try to.
Top man. Thanks everyone for watching at home. This has been the EFL Debate season preview podcast on League Two, and we'll see you again for another episode next week after the opening weekend.